Welcome to what I was told was impossible.
You want more and more. It never satisfies. It never fills that void.
Brian, you've got to get to your root. You've got to get to what is going on here.
Well, I was all wrapped up in, I've still got to be chosen.
When men are in pain, they pay for their pleasure. And in paying for pleasure, you're causing us pain.
That a prostituted individual is not going to make you feel like a man.
We have a saying with demand disruption, your identity plus your purpose will equal your legacy.
Because there is freedom, real
Yes.
freedom. It's not just a word people throw out. Like, no, it's true freedom.
We could be out there in our high heels all day and nobody's going to buy us if there wasn't demand.
In 20 minutes, I made a decision that changed the trajectory of my life forever.
Y'all, welcome to what I was told was impossible. That this couldn't happen. That this stage, this collection of this panel, I was told when I shared it with somebody that, this is something that's on my heart that I want to do. That was years ago. And they said, that's a terrible idea. That'll never work. And our team started thinking about it, and it's brought us to this point. And in a week when we've seen what hate can do, tonight, I really am eager to see what grace can do, what understanding can do, what courage and willingness to go beyond hurt, go beyond all of the things that we're justified in feeling, push past that, and do so in a way that brings understanding, not just to our audience, but to everybody that sees this. So thank you for tonight. I'm extremely grateful for each and every one of you because you are hope and transformation personified. Now, I know y'all very well, but the obligatory questions. So Tracy, I'm gonna start with you. Tell us where you grew up, where are you from? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Tracy, and I grew up by Hobby Airport in Southeast Houston, and I lived in Houston my entire life, and I run a nonprofit called Project Girls Houston, and we work with women that are in the game, and we meet them at the point of crisis, and we purpose to take them all the way through to entrepreneurship through our Game Over program.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
We're grateful you're here.
Thanks.
Brian, how about you, man?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Brian Schillingberg. I have a new life in Christ, recovering from depression, shame, sexual immorality. Probably this week, a little bit of anxiety with everything going on. I am a husband to my beautiful bride, Lauren, my son, Ben, and my stepdaughter, Lila. And I work in HSC management.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Rachel.
My name is Rachel. I am originally from Detroit, Michigan. I was in the foster care system, and my exploitation happened there. I live in Houston now. I've been here for almost 10 years, working as a nurse, as a forensic nurse, doing sexual assault examinations on victims and testifying on behalf of them in court and advocating in that way.
Thank you so much. Daniel.
My name is Daniel. I lived in northwest side of Houston my whole life, and I'm a quality technician for a chemical company.
Yeah. And Daniel has been a volunteer, what we call our defenders, for, as long as we've been doing this, working with men, helping them get beyond where they are to a point where he's achieved. Thank you, Daniel. Angela.
Hi, I'm Angela Williams from Houston, Texas. I am an anti-trafficking advocate after being exploited for over a decade across the country on many levels of trafficking within the system. So I've seen a lot and overcame a lot. I'm just here to share.
Yeah. Well, we're grateful you're here. And you just heard really an incredible spectrum of what y'all do, what you've been through, what you've overcome. When we started talking about this, and I called each one of y'all, by the way, we asked 5 people to do this, and the 5 people we asked are sitting right here. Y'all's yes said so much to us. And in a minute, I'm going to ask you why you said yes. But first, I'm just thinking about how do we do this? That was a question that we kept coming back to. And so we had dinner together. I cooked some ribs. I cooked some, I don't know what else, but there wasn't much left when it was over. I didn't hear any complaints, so I'll take that. Going into that night, one of our team said, I felt this healthy tension in the room. And I liked that because it did feel like that to me. But then I saw some incredible things that night. But I'd love to hear about, like, when we sat down together, or you're driving to my house, okay, put yourself back in the car. You're coming to sit down to have this first discussion. What were you feeling? What were you thinking? Brian, you want to go first?
Oh,
I saw you zone out. No, just kidding.
oh man, that was a wild day, man. Lauren, my wife, got to join me. Apparently she wasn't going to join me. And I was like, okay, I feel a little bit better about that. And then she said, no, I think I'm going to make it our girls tonight. Then I was like, okay. So how do I keep my wife safe? You know, how do I walk into this space and not say something that's insensitive or unkind? And, you know, I just kind of, and I felt the presence, man. I felt just really safe the moment I walked up, and you know, your wife greeted us and sat down, and I was apprehensive. I didn't know how to approach it, and I just felt like I just needed to kind of be quiet. I'm not a quiet person, and so it was just a moment where I think I needed to just learn and listen. And you know, it was so beautiful is that I got to talk about why I was there. You know, I'm here to learn, to become to tell my story and help that drive and grow other people, and but to be Christ. And so but once I said that, my wife started talking, and it was just this beautiful moment where I felt I felt just so honored that she was there, but also this moment where y'all were feeding and connecting with her and talking about this beautiful moment of seeing someone who's experienced betrayal trauma and the connections that you have with her. So, man, I was honored. I was blown away. The rack of ribs you gave me home were just amazing. And
nice plug. That was well done right there. That's how you're going to get easier questions when you say things like that. Very nice. Well done. This is not your first rodeo. Man, you just touched on something that when y'all left, okay, I'm going to ask y'all the same question, but when y'all left, our team was just looking at each other saying, did you see that moment when Lauren and Tracy were talking and then embracing? And the reason I remember that is because that I never even imagined, right? I just thought, okay, we're all going to talk. We're going to have a conversation. We'll understand each other so that we have a groundwork for tonight. But what happened in that discussion, to see Tracy, you and Lauren have that conversation and then embrace, it broke through so many things that we see in the work that we do at anti-trafficking. Like the three of you are survivor leaders. We're in these silos. That's what tonight is about. But more than that, that's what started back there at dinner. So Tracy, I'm going to come to you. What was the feeling that night? What was something that you left like, I never even considered that?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I felt great coming there, and I don't know why, but for some reason, I don't know why. I must have missed it. I didn't see it in the memo. Like, I didn't even know, like, the guys were going to be there.
So you show up.
I didn't even know. I show up, and I'm like, oh, we're having dinner. We're talking about this podcast. Everything's all cool. And so we're sitting there talking, and then we find out, then I start getting a clue. I'm like, oh, my God, these are former buyers. Like, what's really going on? And then your wife's in the room, and I'm like, oh, great. I'm like, oh, this is great, So it took me by surprise, but then many feelings came up and were confirmed that had already been happening in my life for many, many months, that thank God I've got people that I can process that to, that, because many things were coming up along this journey of taking accountability and seeking healing. And, and I know we'll definitely talk more about it, but I mean, at that moment, just more and more what was being revealed was how many men I hurt. Man. How many men that I played and hurt, and how many wives got hurt because of things that I was doing as efforts to try and be seen and noticed and heard and chosen. And so, yeah, I felt very moved to hug your wife. And it was almost like a moment that I could say I was sorry, because, I mean, was this people watching this besides this audience? Because, who knows, we'll see this one day. But there are people to this day that, So it just, it pushed forth the journey of healing, of accountability that I've been purposing to really try to step into.
You talked about healing, accountability, regret. Like those are things that I thought I was going to hear from the guys. But you're saying that as a prostitute woman in this life, you still felt that because of the interactions you had with these men, the animosity, all the words that you've said. And that's kind of that transcendence that I don't think people would ever think of that. And they certainly wouldn't say it. But here you are saying it and representing it in a way that only you can. That's why lived experience experts, that's why we need to just shut up and listen for a while, because you're going to learn something every time. Thank you for that. Because you were talking to me after the dinner about that. And I thought, I never even considered that you might be struggling with those feelings of regret and that type of accountability check. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Rachel, what about you?
Yeah, so going there's always that feeling when they say there's a former buyer that's going to be there, and you're like, well, do they know me? Are they going to recognize me? Do I know them? Have I seen them? So it was like that awkward moment of, well, I didn't recognize either of them. But getting there and having that conversation and just talking around the table, with his wife being there, that was a moment for me of hearing her talk and about how she chose to stay with him even after finding out, and the forgiveness and everything that they went through. The biggest part for me that moved me in getting prepared for this was thinking, wow, I'm so angry at all these buyers and the demand. And, as Christians, we're supposed to forgive and have mercy and grace. And I'm like, I still have hatred in my heart towards the buyers. And I'm like angry. I'm like, yeah, give him time. And all the court, I'm testifying. I'm like, I hope he gets a long sentence. I'm like, well, what about that mercy? And what about, people who are buying that choose to say, no, I don't want to do it anymore. Let me help others to stop. Like that's somebody who's making a choice to stop and make a difference in other people's lives. And so to look at that and to look at her and to say, even she forgave her husband who was involved with so many of us, and she still chose him and chose to work through it. Like that just showed me, even in my relationships now and things that I do, if I get cheated on, I'm like, oh, nope, never again. Or I find out you're watching porn, that's a non-negotiable. Bye. I'm like, why can't I even have mercy? Isn't that part of my healing? So it made me rethink even myself and my own heart and the bias that I still have, even as an advocate in this work of, I need to understand all sides so that I can properly advocate for everyone.
Yeah.
And what she said, I feel, is extremely important, because there's so many people in this space that are healing on their own terms. And eventually...
What's that mean, healing on their own terms?
Healing on their own terms, like what they see, like we need to heal from, based on group therapy or, whatever. It's just so woman-centered. And we don't realize that we can be as lived experience as we want. We can travel all over the country, but eventually we're going to hit a brick wall where, yes, we're going to have to face that moment and think about the accountability of the buyer's family also.
Wow.
Yeah, I just want to say absolutely, because the manipulation exists between the buyer and seller.
As long as
that happened all day long. Yeah. We were exploiting one another.
And as long as we come into that space with that hatred, and like I don't see us moving forward.
Yeah. Daniel, what about you? What was that night for you?
Well, that day, just driving there, me praying about it, it's something that, just praying about getting out of my comfort zone is something very different that I do not do. So just getting there, feeling welcome and loved by everybody there. There was no judgment. There was no, hey, pointing fingers. Just felt the just in the table, just the love, the hearing one another and understanding. So at first I'm an introvert, so it was kind of tough to be there. So, but it was great. Leaving there, I felt like a weight off my shoulders. But this is something that I can definitely do.
You always say you're an introvert, but you always show up. You always show up. You've weighed things, you've thought about it, you've talked with your wife, Jenny, and together y'all have come to agreements. Yeah, no, I want to tell my story. You told it at our first fundraiser, at our first breakfast. And you got a standing ovation from a room. And I remember you saying, I did not expect that. Each of you just from the beginning. This first time I'm hearing a lot of these stories about that night, because I have so many stories of my own. It told me that we're on the right path, but we're also doing it in such a way that you're experiencing something. What I don't want is for you to come and tell all the pain and suffering that you've gone through, and then that's a wrap. What of it? And what I'm hearing are people who have been able to transcend and get beyond, and even allow some of your own self-questions. And the reward for that is discovering each other and discovering that type of understanding. Some people are going to hear this and they're going to grimace. They're going to be like, no. Buyers are monsters. They're the reason we have trafficking. Trafficking is evil. And two things can be true. I have sat in front of monsters. I've looked in their eyes and I've asked them questions. And I know that they're not only not remorseful, but there's something broken in there. But more often than not, I'm talking to somebody at the end of a broken process where their struggle brought them there in an intersection with somebody else who was exploited. And so I guess that really brings me to my next question is, it's easy to judge, it's easy to guess and assume things. I think in our first 10 minutes, people are like, oh my God, I never would have considered that. So we're off to a pretty good start. Angela, can you kind of lift the curtain? Give people an understanding of how did you get into this life of being prostituted? What was that? On-ramps a cliche, but what was that like? How did that happen?
Not every trafficking story is going to be the same. But I came from like the slums of Houston, and I didn't even have a chance. So I came into a situation as a teenager, forced to be an adult and take care of themselves, thinking that I'm completely independent, but not aware of any of my vulnerabilities.
Wow, yeah.
So at some point, I thought that I knew everything and I knew nothing. And all it took was one person that I trusted to come and tell me an idea and make it sound like it was a good idea. And I just jump on it because all I wanted was a chance.
Independent, but vulnerable. And then one person coming along, tip that domino right to, where are we going? What are we doing? Let's go. You don't have to be trafficked, I don't think, to understand how that feels. That transcends. That's really powerful. I mean, I can think of times in my life where I've seen that play out. Thank you for sharing that. So as I pose that question to you, Rachel, I think Angela said it best. No two stories really are the same. We get caught thinking that there's a framework and this is what trafficking is and that person's got a pimp and this is the equation. It's different in different ways. Would you mind telling us just kind of how your life changed in that trajectory with prostitution?
Yeah, so I was a frequent runaway. I did not have a good experience in the foster home and my placement. And so I kept running and police would pick me up, bring me back, and it was the same cycle. And there was abuse at home. And with a lot of victims, there's a lot of history of sexual abuse. And that was the case for me. And so I was running from something. And then I ended up going online and finding an ad where a family offered to make me a model, build me a portfolio, help make me famous. And as a little girl, you're like, I want to be famous and go to Hollywood. So I did it. And they took photos and they dressed me up. And very quickly, I got groomed into thinking this was normal, but then to thinking that I had to hide it because I would go to jail and they would tell the cops and I was the one that was bad. But they would take me to and from poker parties, bachelor parties, entertain the men, give them massages, and they would set everything up for me. And I, of course, never kept the money, but I had a place to stay. And so being 15, you're like, well, where am I going to stay today? And at that point, I was surviving. I would stay with anybody who would house me. And it was just kind of that cycle. And there's so many more levels to that. But I was young and I was looking for love, somebody to take me in. And, you know, they had other girls there. They had me bring in other girls. And that was the hardest part of my healing, is realizing that I brought in other teenage girls because I didn't want to be out there alone. So that was hard for me because what was I then? trafficker, a recruiter, bringing in my girlfriends to come make money, and let's go to Vegas for the weekend, and they're going to show you how to dance. And it seemed so glamorous, but it wasn't. And I didn't see it as that. And every time the police picked me up, they thought they were rescuing me. And I was like, no, I'm fine. I didn't want the help because, if you're being abused at home or here, which misery is better? At least over here, I get a Gucci bag, right?
Wow.
So it was a weird, transition for me.
Word choices get thrown around a lot. Well, they're choosing to be here. You just explained a choice that nobody would even fathom. Well, I'm going to be beaten here or there. What's the difference? I get something over here. I hate hearing y'all stories. I've heard them all, and you've been nice enough to share it with us publicly, but also as friends. But I think it's important to at least talk about how that life can really change from a vulnerable person, which we all vulnerable at some point, but to have that change and be manipulated and exploited in that way. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Tracy, can you just give us an idea of what that transition was like for you from?
Yeah. So my experience was, I was abandoned at birth, and I was left at home with my grandparents. My birth mother ran Telephone Road and was caught up in not to the degree that I was by any means. At least that's what I was told. But I grew up in a home where I had anything and everything I wanted, material wise, but I didn't have a voice, And so I'm like the tall. I've been like 6 foot tall like since I was 5 or something. Like my whole life. You know what I'm saying? And I'm loud, and you know what I mean. I got all the questions and all the stuff, and so I grew up with this horrible complex of so insecure in myself, and everybody called me Big Red, and I hated being called Big Red. I didn't want to be Big Red. I didn't want to be just one of the dudes and get along and be popular on the strength of, that real tall chick, Big Red. And so it was, it was tough. Like just the insecurities were so significant, they almost swallowed me. Yeah. And I remember going home every single day when I get out of school, and I'd be practicing my hair and trying to do my makeup so I could look like all the blonde girls and the short girls, and wear my sister's shoes so my foot could look smaller. I don't know why I'm getting emotional. You know what I mean? And just I just did not want to be me.
Yeah.
Nothing. And then when I hit about 19 years old, I was already, drinking, having a little bit of fun, doing a little bit of cocaine. And someone gave me the nickname. They said, "You're Cadillac Red." And I said, yes, I am. I am Cadillac
Anything
Red.
but Big Red.
And in that moment, my identity changed.
Personification.
And
changed.
I hit the ground running and made decisions that, can you see me now?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't a dorky little redhead anymore. All of a sudden, being 6 foot tall and having long red hair was cool.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the dudes that made fun of me in school, they're wanting to buy me drinks. Yeah. So I played that. I played that for many, many, many years. Of course, not knowing it was going to lead me into a life of exploitation.
Yeah.
And so definitely, I believe very much in the mindset. What is our belief system? What story are we telling ourselves? And so I told myself for many years that, zero regard for, I don't care.
Yeah.
You're going to see me now. Yeah. And, Rachel said something good. There's many levels. There's a whole lot of levels to this game and where it takes us. We talk about a timeline. Those significant events, they change us.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it absolutely changed me. And so that's a little bit. Yeah.
Man, this is why you can't just presume anything about trafficking. You can't presume about somebody who is into life. You can't presume anything. You've got to understand the stories, because the stories in some way, I guarantee one of your 3 stories, somebody felt something that was relative to their life. So thank y'all for sharing that. Again, I hate hearing your stories, but when we set that baseline, we set that understanding, it's necessary, especially in this rare opportunity. Now, these 2 men, I've gotten to know you guys, and I'm honored to call you friends, because you serve in a way right now that you want to be difference makers in this fight. You want to tell a story about freedom and release. And in a minute, you get a chance to do that. But I preface that because You're here. You trust us. I want you to trust me just a little bit more. I want to take you back, not to where we are now, but before. Thinking about that mindset, that goal-seeking mindset, that reward-seeking mindset. When you hear their stories, did you ever think about why is she here? What's her story? Did that really ever click, or no? When you were in that mindset, it was like, she's here, I'm here, I got money. You know, tell me about that if you would, Daniel.
Yeah, that's pretty much the mentality I had. It's like, hey, I'm here, you're here. I ain't know anybody held against anybody's will. I don't know if that was a situation or not, but it's like, hey, I'll give you drugs if you instead of money. Hey, let's work a deal. Hey, I just never thought it was. I just thought it was just a, hey, you're here, I'm here. Yeah. Never thought beyond that.
How about you, Brian?
We talked a little bit about this at dinner, and I didn't care. I didn't care. I was so full of myself and my ego and my problems and what I wasn't getting and what I needed and my anxiety and my stress and my problems. I couldn't care.
It takes a lot of courage to say it that way, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree. And thinking back, I was one of those after-hour places that open up at 2, and it's about 6, 7 a.m. Just there drinking, just seeing somebody in a room just being held, against their will, just performing sex acts and things like that. And I just thought it was normal. I've done all that my whole life, and growing up and just around drugs and violence, that I just thought, hey, that's normal. Didn't see any issues with it. So just thinking back really just hurts my heart. So
it's hard to go there. But there's a real disconnect here. I know the two of you have told me after that night how much they respect these women. I even think some friendships are growing here. I saw y'all in the hallway just talking. To get beyond the things you've each overcome and then look at it and reflect on that, there's so much hope in it. Being able to talk about this in this setting. But we've got so many people that are going to be listening to this that need to understand you didn't just end up there one day. None of you did. There was a timeline. And then at the end of that timeline, there was this intersection. On that timeline, we find ourselves escalating. What role, Brian, did pornography play in your escalation? And I ask you specifically about that, knowing some of your story, but also knowing the story of over 1,000 men I've talked to at the point of arrest, or we've talked to as demand disruption.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's, I think, something that, one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about being involved in demand disruption and in taking a stand against pornography. It played a huge role. If I could paint a picture, I'm having, I'm a high school principal of a prominent, one of the greatest schools, I'd say, in high schools in Fort Bend County, giving a huge, speech to thousands of people. And in 20 minutes, I made a decision that changed the trajectory of my life forever, right? Walked in to, seeing my face on the 6 o'clock news with the news lady that I know that my son went to school with there. Hearing everybody catcalling, like news people coming after my wife to pick me up. I can't believe she picked me up. Like, if I could paint a picture for you of the absolute nightmare that was in the thousands of people that I heard that day and that night, I didn't know when I was sitting in my bed that night. I gotten home from jail, and I got a call from an old friend, family friend, who actually worked in recovery, and he called me. He said, "Brian, you've got to get to your root. You've got to get to what is going on here." And I don't know, man. It was God. He invited me to this Gateway to Freedom retreat, and we started unpacking. It was like an onion. Yeah. I just kept peeling them back, layer after layer, and I started seeing all these things that I had lived in. I started seeing the dynamics of my family, some things there. I had experienced abuse as a kid. I had gone through some really horrible, dark things that I had spoken so much shame into myself. Food and pornography became this thing that helped me cope, to deal. And I left it on a shelf, like in my closet. Like I had gotten so good at hiding it, I would pull it down to deal and cope with life. But as things got harder and harder, that's what we talked about, the escalation of pornography. Yeah. It's not enough. No. When you're in an addiction, you're not looking for what that is able to provide you anymore. You're looking for a way out. You're doing the only thing that you've been able to do decade after decade. That's right. So pornography just was a stepping stone to doing that next thing, to being part of something I never would have thought I would involve myself in.
Yeah, it was this catalyst, right? Yep. And then after a while, it's not enough. I've seen it. Now I kind of want to be around it. I want to experience it.
That was actually, like, in my situation anyway, a lot of the clients, they would actually want to watch pornography during it, and they would want to reenact what was happening. And so that was a big, like, a fetish thing. And that was a very big part of it, the pornography aspect. I mean, I was put on porn sites when I was a child, and from my foster family posting me. And then I actually was going to a church, and the youth pastor pulled me aside, and they're like, hey, somebody's, her husband found you online. They saw your pictures. Oh my goodness. So they found me online being posted as a teenager. But they're like, oh, teenager, she's, in other countries that's legal. Whatever your defense is, I don't care. I was a child. Yeah. Right. And so they told me that I had to stand up in front of the church, apologize. I couldn't go to youth group anymore. I couldn't go to church camp. And that's what I was looking forward to, having a week away from violence. But I was looked at as dirty and as bad. And like, I hated my body, and I would wear baggy clothes. I'm like, I hate this. But I look back and I'm like, why didn't anybody ask her, why is your husband searching for little girls online? Right? Like, shifting that discussion, and like, to be here, with buyers and porn consumers. I mean, porn kills love. It fuels the demand. And to acknowledge that, and like, to talk about it being an addiction, and how do you stop that addiction? Because it's going to continue to escalate, and people are going to want to act out what they see, and they're going to want to go younger and younger, because that's the fetish and that's the norm today. Yeah,
and that's powerful there. I remember me growing up, rough neighborhood, and at home, just very verbal abusive household. Dad's an alcoholic. So, me being exposed at I would say very young, like around 10 years old, perverse mentality, being very young, and just what fueled it was just started drinking at 14 years old. And that right there was just fueling the fire. After that was just an alcoholic, drug addict,
next thing.
Just pornography. It starts with that. That's just, like I said, that's just first step. Once that, you want something different, you want more and more. It never satisfies. It never fills that void. It just keeps deeper and deeper.
Never satisfies.
And I think the thing that, we don't want to talk about, or we don't want to see within our kids, is that, like, you don't see adults getting addicted to pornography. You see kids.
That's right.
Getting addicted to pornography.
That's right.
That's how it starts.
That's right.
Because they're touching things that they don't even know, and seeing and experiencing things that they can't process.
And let's just take a minute to talk about that. So a porn site is one of the things we talk about with our workshops and our teams. Is a porn site is a sales cycle. And if you don't understand that, let me explain it. You log on, you see the video, now you're in control. First of all, you're a consumer, and it's free, so I'm not really paying for any of it. So you've also got justification. You've also got objectification. You've got all these things that allow you to move on to the next thing. And in a sales cycle, as you're seeking something you're trying to acquire, you have all these choices, and it's all free. And for a while, that's enough. And for some, that's enough, and they never escalate. But for so many, what else is on that page? Now, I've told my story. I've struggled with porn for 7 or 8 years. And in that time, most of the time, I didn't even think I was struggling. I'm just a guy. The narrative was so rich and constant in our culture for me. I thought, yeah, justified. But what I can tell you from those sites, and it hasn't changed, is that after a video plays, maybe another one, webcam pop up. Why? They want to take you from you in a video to you in a person. It's still virtual. I still have all of the deniability, justification. I can still apply all of that to have this next level that I think is somehow better. It's an escalation. And on that same site, and we're learning about it more and more in our culture, but not enough, you can click on Meet Lonely Girls or Have Sex Now for free. Those buttons take you where? An escort site. It's digital pimping. The whole flow is there. And if I'm a consumer and I came for this video, but then that keeps popping up. Well, what's that? Oh, well, the first time I see something, I may be pushed away from it. But then I'm like, okay, well, what is it? Well, I'll just click on it. I'll just see what it is. There is an escalation. There is a sales cycle that happens. And when we don't realize that, then we do nothing to intercede with it. And that's really where I'm hearing y'all's escalation for buyers. But then I'm hearing it also from you, Rachel. I'm hearing from people wanting to emulate it. And that's why I say there's no such thing as fantasy. We can say the word fantasy all day long, but there will be some iteration that we're either tempted to or we act out on to acquire beyond that fantasy. And while we don't work with people who harm children, sometimes I feel like I just got to say yet. We don't work with men who harm children yet. And that's hard for me to say out loud. But Rachel, you mentioned it. There are so many justifications built in. There are categories for young or right to the line of legal. And while these are horrible things to talk about, if we don't understand what's happening and that it's a sales cycle, we're not going to understand why people continually buy and buy and buy and buy. And why there is supply. And what drives the market? Buyers.
And you know what else too that brings a point of there's so many things that happens in so many of our lives when we're young that sometimes we don't even remember. I mean, I know in my own healing journey, there's still pieces I'm trying to put together. I'm like, is that a memory? Did that? No, that didn't happen. No way that could have happened. And so pornography was very much a part of my life from a young age and, never would have put any of those pieces together at all. And it's just interesting talking about tricks and, former buyers. I'm going to keep it former buyers.
Tricks,
we call them tricks because I with no tree.
Tracy's got a whole vocabulary that she's going to translate. Where's the Tracy glossary?
Got a whole other show going on over here.
That's in the third.
So I
got questions for these dudes.
Well, I
but
know
that's interesting.
I can resonate with what you're saying
because you don't know.
Yeah.
You're like you don't really. No, he didn't do that to me. No, or where did that behavior come from at such a young age? For it's like that had to have. Someone had to show me something. Yeah. I had to have, where did that, and then of course there's years, my first couple of years of life. I mean, they had to come in and, in trafficking, it's always like, look, we need to be the voice. We need to be the voice. And man, somebody need to be my voice way back there. Man, not by the time I come to your office to get services.
Yeah, that's powerful. Angela, you're nodding over here. Like I know that you experienced a lot of the same.
I know what you're saying. I can resonate with so much because as I'm growing and healing, I'm understanding that a lot of the things prior to me being broken and completely turned out at the age of 17, being groomed, a lot of things prior I blacked out. Mm-hmm. But as I'm healing, I'm able to remember more. And I'm 40, so there wasn't the internet, but there was HBO, and there was a show called Real Sex. Yep. And there was sexual interactions that were basically pornography without the parts. And I remember there was, after the Real Sex, they're like, call this sexy hotline. And there was sexy hotlines. So I was exposed to that. But then I had a cousin who almost exploited me, and it was able to be intercepted. And I just remember everything prior that was trauma or brought me to that place was blacked out.
And we get lost in the word too.
And now understanding, that it starts from pornography, I can resonate, because like then we get to a place where we're turned out and all we know is sex for money, and we're not holding ourselves accountable for what brought us to that place.
Oh, yeah.
The things we need to address that we were exposed to that we shouldn't have been.
And hiding behind, I'm a victim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean that, I said that.
We're victors.
Victors, not victims. Oh, I like that. Rachel, you work with, as a sexual assault nurse examiner, with women who have just very immediately been exploited or harmed. How much of this that you're hearing sounds familiar to you? Rings a bell?
Yeah, it's the key part of that is the trauma and the impact on memory. I mean, I've done thousands of sexual assault kits and taken the evidence, and each box that I put to the crime lab, that's a life, that's a story. And I have to listen to that story, transcribe that story, and it resonates in my mind. But there's this common theme of well, I blacked out and I don't really remember. And sometimes they don't want to remember and they don't want to talk about certain things. But similar to, you go to the ER after concussion and you don't remember leading up to the concussion, but you passed out and now you're here. But the memory is kind of foggy. It's the same thing. It's trauma. And the stuff that you go through, the sexual, emotional, and physical trauma, the thing about healing from trauma is realizing you'll never be the same. It leaves a scar, whether it's physical or emotional, it's going to be there. And it's how do you function the rest of your life, learning how to cope with it. And if you don't acknowledge it and you don't even let yourself heal to where you go back into those onion layers to figure out what is causing this response that I have here? What is that trigger? If you don't do the work to go back, then you're never going to heal and you're going to get stuck in that cycle and the night terrors and the lack of sleep, and your marriage is going to be affected and you won't be able to have a normal life if you don't heal from the trauma. And, you'll do damage if you try to be an advocate and get in this work if you don't do the work yourself, because hurt people hurt people.
Yeah,
so we need to take account of our own, past and histories, and why are we in this room today? What brought us here to care about this? Because there's something that led you to be here, whether it's to support, to advocate, but dig deep and say, how can I, participate better and understand better and listen to those from both sides? It's a really powerful place to be when you realize that healing has to happen. And the victim versus survivor, I mean, everybody likes to be called different things, but, when you go through something like this, you're a victim, you are victimized. And you can be a survivor, but we don't go in front of juries and say, oh, the survivor, you should put it. We say they were a victim of crime. Yeah. And so we have to acknowledge that, because if you rush to saying, oh, somebody's a survivor, you skip the healing part, and that healing is necessary. Yes. And the recidivism rate, you'll fall right back into it. And all it takes is somebody say, hey, you're struggling, you don't have a job right now, come make some money real quick. You want to fly to Miami?
Yep, that's right. Capitalize on that vulnerability.
Miami sounds so nice. Right. Well, that's as easy as it is to get someone to think it's a good idea. Anywhere
but here, and even better if it's exotic. There's just so many things in that, Rachel, as you're talking.
Yeah.
As I think about Daniel and Brian, just the work that you're doing now to really continually, in Daniel's case, you've worked with countless men at the point of arrest, with men post-arrest going through a longer process, our bridge method, to really see that freedom and restoration. And every time you work with a guy and they graduate that program, they're not going to buy again. They have gone through the work of accountability. And what they've replaced, and this is what I'm getting to, is the things that sometimes are hard to hear, we just call them excuses. But people who are hurt and hurting others, they're also entitled to reasons and factors. Because we just talked about 5 factors in your lives that were really predecessors to the life that you ended up living, whether it's an abusive father or a neighborhood where drugs and alcohol were a norm, whether it's just being invisible, whether it's foster parents. There are these things that happen, and it puts you on this trajectory. So Daniel, when I think about the men that you're working with, and I think about the path that they have to go on, I think about your path and how there's credibility in that. Tell me what it's like to work with somebody that hasn't yet discovered what the true impact of their decision-making in buying sex is. What's that like, working with somebody and taking them through that?
Well, for one, I want to see at the end of this program, I want to see, main thing is the freedom, because there is freedom, real
Yes.
freedom. It's not just the word people throw out. Like, no, it's true freedom where it just changes the heart. It's that heart of stone to a softened heart. I want to see these, man. I didn't have that person to, lead me through a journey to where, like, hey, let me take you under my wing. I want to be that for these men. I want to be there because I know how it is to be in chains with no way out, having a void, and you're searching and searching and searching, and you never find that. So it's an honor to work with these guys and really want them to see that there is something more than just this, that you can break these chains.
I feel like people have to understand that even just the engagement, you have two broken people meeting in one place, possibly trauma bonding and not caring about, what the person's names are even in that room. I know for myself, there were a few people that I looked back and said, man, they helped me out a lot, but wiped me off like I was a spot on the wall once the shop was closed. I was a ghost to them or non-existent to them. I didn't have what they, in their mind, thought they wanted. And I wish that I knew that I could have offered them help. Or I wish there was help in those cities even. Yeah. Like, yes, you guys did provide gasoline to fuel the monster. You guys are the root of that monster, but it doesn't mean that they have to stay in that realm. Everyone deserves redemption. And I wish that more people would be open-minded to that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's transcendent to really everything we're talking about. What does that look like, right?
Yeah, because people don't always see that. They don't. It's very common in this landscape. It looks like this, and this is what they are, and this is what we do. And, that's why when you're like, why'd you want to come? I'm like, I'm representing the renegade, the most unrepresented there is. It's like, oh, it's just a prostitute, And there's the drug addiction, we haven't even talked about that. I mean, the addiction that's fueling the need to go and perform these or, be in these situations to continue to get high.
Daniel even said a second ago that drugs were part of payment sometimes.
Absolutely.
And you told me that story and you talked about it at length in our podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. There's just such a dynamic that's happening. I mean, it's just so crazy to be able to sit here with you guys. And you and I were joking earlier, tell me a little bit of your story about, being the dope man. I'm like, oh, you're the dope man. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Just to understand what's really going on when two people, because that guy pulls up and he's thinking one thing, but I've heard the word broken several times around this table. They don't have any idea who just got in their car. They don't. You think I care about you? I just drew toilet water in my syringe to shoot dope. I don't care about you. And to understand what's really happening in those moments. And absolutely, both people need redemption, and to be able to continue to reflect on, golly, there were so many, and I never would put even in leadership, being an advocate, still would always, y'all were always just referred to as the tricks in the game. Not as until you brought your wife to the thing and then it made it all real. And I'm like, oh, great. Like, these are real people? Oh, my God.
That's a dirty trick, man.
But
if you know what a trick is, that's what we call the buyers.
And that's the thing.
Trick,
we tell our stories, and within our memories, of course, we're going to remember, the trauma. We're going to remember the bad guys. And majority of the people that we encountered may have been very well bad guys and probably still are. Because I told a lot of girls that were 18 or 19, within a stable, like, these guys have been buying sex longer than you've been alive. And it's just like, like such a big space that we need to talk about.
What must that individual be going through that traffics a chick?
Yeah.
See, nobody, I don't even know we're ready to have that conversation.
Well, that's what I
mean,
was
what
saying.
must they really be going through to harm
That's right.
someone
There's
to that
brokenness
degree?
all throughout.
Yeah, I always talk to Joe about sexual deviant intervention within the prison system, like to mandate it within the prison system, the way they do pedophiles. So that way, like, yes, you had a pimp charge or compelling charge. And in order for you to get out, you have to take changes. No, you don't have to take changes. You have to take this sexual deviant intervention. And at least we know we sowed the seed and potentially rehabilitated a monster.
Yeah. And that, you know what, and that leads to that, like you talk about victim services and we start providing, that's why it's so important knowing people's story when you're serving them. Because not everybody that shows up, they're in a different headspace. They're in a different place. And so for me, let me just show up and present and just put on the, fit this narrative of your agency. Oh, I'm a victim of trafficking and this and that. I feel like it's an injustice and we can lose people if we don't really find out, why are you here? What led you to the life?
A better way
Can
to go
I
deeper.
ask them a question?
Yeah, I got questions too.
Yeah, I have a question.
I got
for you.
questions.
No, I have a question for you guys. Okay.
I'm going to go get something to eat.
It's about to go down. We used to bring
Don't skip. I know, but don't skip. This is the part we all skip, right? Let's get back to the conversation. But there would be no conversation without not our sponsors, but our code generators. Yes, I just made that word up. They help us generate a conversation that otherwise wouldn't exist. And they are Learner Productions, Northline Studio, Crosspoint Church, our friends at HEB, at Smith, Frank Nance, State Farm Agent, Tallowood Baptist Church, Church 122. All of these came behind and helped us produce something that didn't exist to this point. They're our partners. They are our co-generators. You can also be a co-generator. You put on your resume. I'm giving you full permission right now. Go to our website, demanddisruption.org, click on donate, and help us create an even more amazing season 2. Thank you.
Ask them a question.
Yeah, I got questions too.
Yeah, I have a question for you.
questions.
No, I have a question for you guys. Within the time frame that you guys were buyers, for better words, did you ever notice or care if the girl had a pimp? And did it matter if they were waiting outside or banging on the door?
For me, it was more in the strip clubs, more in massage parlors. Where
Well, the strip clubs are indoor tracks and so are the massage parlors.
Yeah, but I guess the difference, like you say, from going through the streets where somebody might try to rob me or things like that, I saw it as more of a safe space where, like, I just thought that, hey, strip clubs, you got, rooms, instead of just like a one-on-one interaction, somebody's waiting, is not really safe, and just played it in that kind of way. I don't know if that answered.
The majority of sex
Like
is not
out of sight, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like at times it was mainly payments with drugs at times too.
You
So
had
it's
an
like,
outlet that you could go to because the majority of sex is not bought on the street. That's a misconception. It's in a place where somebody feels comfortable or has deniability. And strip clubs are that easy on-ramp. I mean, this is news for some people right now to say strip clubs have trafficking in them. And we all know it.
I would also say that, it started for me, you talk about pornography not being enough, but, really trying to deal with stress and anxiety in my life. Going from a genuine place, I knew in my mind that, man, you need to be careful when you go to a massage parlor because there are these bad places. I actually did go into one and saw that it was a bad place. One time I went, I thought it was just a safe place to go to. And it was just this moment of her asking me that. And right then and there, it was like a hook in my back, of knowing what I had done wrong, just trying to come back to a place where I can ask for forgiveness, going back to that shame cycle I learned so well as a kid, all the way that I'd hidden, all the way as an adult, just bringing me right back to it, to the point where I thought, well, that's not enough. Yeah. Now I need to find a prostitute. And I think the thing that we miss on the prostitution side is that, like, people put ads out online like it's pornography.
You didn't go to the streets first. You went.
No, it was all online.
Yeah, and it all is.
It was, and that's that was the place.
Like you
Predominantly
said, Joe,
aware.
easy click from
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
Everything's done in the
like
phone.
I said, it was like literally talking to 2,000 people, thinking, "Man, I'm so high on myself," like and then trying to find something, and then being arrested. Yeah. From that ad online.
And it was that quick and that simple. And it is that sales cycle. It's always there. And even when you're not ready to buy, you're still being sold. There's still a consumer base. And that's why it's so important what you were saying earlier about decisions we make as a nation with how we treat things like pornography. We have been ignorant for a very, very long time and willfully ignorant. Yes, we want to protect children. Everybody agrees on that. And then we get into this minutia of, well, what does that look like and what's fair and what's not fair? You know what's fair is making sure that a child is not going to see pornography on accident. They're not going to seek it out. They don't have a point of reference at 8, 9, and 10 years old for sex and sexuality. It will seek them out. To Brian's point earlier, we as a nation have to understand that's a catalyst for a generation of buyers. And if we don't think of it that way, then we're not going to be able to intercede in a way that's meaningful, successful, and repeatable. And the reason I think we're not doing that is because we're not listening to survivors tell their stories in a way that is actually wanting to be instructed and take their leadership and learn from it. Because you've each talked about that specifically, and you men have talked about that. And that's very, very important. I don't want to miss an opportunity to talk about overcoming, talk about triumph, talk about what restoration and transformation looks like. And so let's talk about that a little bit. Rachel, for you, as you exit the life, who is that person for you? Was there somebody that comes to mind? Was there one person? Are you comfortable talking about that?
So I remember I went to this new church, and it was a big mega church, and they were having this, it was called Watershed. It was a bunch of women that were having a 3-day conference, and somebody said I should go. So I go to day one, and I sit in the back of the room, and I was riding motorcycles at the time, so I had my helmet. I snuck into the back of the room, and everybody, they're talking and praying. They're like, all right, let's break up into our prayer groups. And I was like, I don't know which group I'm in. I don't belong here. I can't do this. And I felt just so like, why am I here? I felt so dirty. I'm like, if they only knew where I was yesterday, like, and so I got up and I started walking, and this lady followed me down the hallway. She's like, hey, you with the helmet, stop. And I was like, yeah. She's like, I don't know who you are. I've never seen you at our church before, but God just told me to look back at you. And I was in the front. I just kept looking back at you, and he just said, pray. And so I don't know what your story is, but he said that I needed to pray for you. So is there something going on? Because he wants you to know that you're worth it and that you do belong here and that you deserve prayer and people to come around you. And I was like, who are you? Like, what?
What do you want from me?
And so it was this moment, like, and she prayed over me, and I was so tough, and I never cried, but I left and I went out to my motorcycle, and I just dropped on my knees and I just started sobbing. Oh, wow. And I hadn't cried in years. And it was like this moment where I felt so dirty, so shameful. I'm like, why didn't I catch in fire going there? Doesn't God hate me because of everything I've had to do? Wow. And I felt so seen and so loved. I'm like, God, I feel so dirty, and I'm an adulteress, and I like all this stuff is bad in the Bible, and I'm just covered in sin. And he's like, but I see you, and I sent someone to you in your darkest place to tell you that you're worthy of love. And that was that moment where it was like, and she didn't follow through. Like, it wasn't like I kept seeing her, but it was that moment that brought me back to him, and he saw me. And so then I started looking back to him, and it's like, okay, I'm not, the one at fault here. So then I realized that there's a word for what was happening. It's called human trafficking, and that I was abused and that it wasn't my fault. And I started that, the healing pattern. And I was, I was going into nursing school at that point. And so I was starting to learn about sexual assault and all the things that I realized that's what happened to me. And now I'm trying to learn to be a professional to help others. And, but my pain kind of carved my path out. But that was kind of the moment for me.
Wow. That's so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate you going there. Brian, I know that you mentioned earlier, part of this whole thing was arrest. It was very public, so you had to deal with it. But I know it's deeper than that. Who is that person for you as you began that pattern of understanding what you'd done, accepting the consequence, seeking that type of restoration and doing the work to get there? Who's been that person for you?
I mean, it goes without saying that my wife is probably the strongest person I know. You know, I don't know. I don't know how you quantify a person. You know how you do that? You know how you do that is the story of Christ, the story of his forgiveness lived out loud. I don't think I've ever knew what that was until that was demonstrated to me. Or my wife, guys, we had been married a year. She had gone through this shit her whole life. You know, for her to be able to go through a year in and go through something so public and traumatic, and then have to go through this own journey. Let me say, it's not like this perfect thing. You know, it's been rocky. It's been hard. There have been months where I didn't know if we were going to stay together. But what I kept on seeing is God's perfect presence of grace for her to just even be in the same room with me.
Yeah.
Okay, so, you know, and it's been this really wild story, man. I wish I could just tell you, like, I wish I could paint it for you. Where I've gone through this whole story, and it's not this soft thing. Like, it's like 3 months in, man, I was meeting weekly with a counselor. I had to go through a whole process of disclosure. I don't know if y'all know what that is, but it's this, I write pretty much my whole broken sexual history down.
Wow.
And I worked with a counselor for 3 months, and then I sit in front of a counselor with her and I tell her everything. I'm talking like the darkest stuff.
Yeah.
Lay it out. She heard it. She called me and she thanked me. She said, "Thank you, Brian." And she said, "Go get your ass to that polygraph, and I'll see you after that."
Go get your ass to that polygraph. I'm getting a T-shirt made.
You know,
You're all getting one.
Polygraph. But no, you know, she and then watched this whole process of recovery for her to heal.
Yeah.
We're still there. It's still messy. We're still working through it. But man, you don't see it. But there's this whole group of people that has stood by her side this whole time. They're sitting in this room right
That's
now.
right.
Standing with her.
That's right.
Standing in her to support her.
That's
to
amazing.
be here. To listen to this.
Yeah. That's
right.
That's
Is that not a story of God's grace and redemption?
That's what's
Is there
possible.
any? Have you
She's
seen
still
or known anything
unconditional.
like that? Yeah. So like, and I have to say also, like, you know, for men to find freedom, it's accountability. It's the men plugged into my life that pour into me. Greg on Mondays, John on Wednesdays, Todd on Fridays, Monday accountability groups where I'm just dumping it all out.
He sounds like us, Joe.
Yeah.
He sounds like
Joe. Joe is like this huge
Joe, you
part of
got a
my
minute?
life now.
I'm just using you for breakfast, man.
Big brother Joe.
Notice we only meet at breakfast. Like, I'm just using it. But
No, there's so many men that have just poured into me. It's poured into me.
But it's flowing out.
Yeah, and so now
you're
that's
pouring
what
into
I get to
others.
do. So now I'm learning. My cup's starting to overflow.
Yep.
And now I get to opportunities like this to tell people that there's hope.
That's right.
That there's ways, that there's accountability and freedom. You don't have to live this double-minded life of living one way, hiding something. There's freedom.
Man.
Daniel said there's freedom.
Is that word?
That's Christ is free.
You know, when your wife asks you, "Oh, my battery died, can I have your phone?" Are you clearing your browser history? Are you worried about what you were on
My
earlier that
phone
day? You're not. That's freedom.
Yeah. No.
Whenever
everything's an open book.
Yeah,
it has to be. And you know what's funny is that I said that before when I got married with Lauren, and I know I wanted that, and I said that, and I didn't really live it. But now it's like, and I'll tell this story, Lauren, that like even when I was walking through recovery, like 4 or 5 months in, I mean, guys, social media is so addictive.
Yeah.
It's just, and I know you guys see and flick through those reels. Guys, it's like roulette.
Yeah.
It's like you don't know what you're going to get, and you don't know
That's
that
right.
your mind is getting trained. It's training on the things that you lingered on for that moment that will send it to you again and again. So I was holding on to YouTube because I've loved that for my whole life, and since it's been around, right? But still, I started flicking through those things, and there were suggestive things on there. She found out about that. I mean, it was like it was like a volcano, man.
Yeah.
Like it was horrible. Even going through all of that and still dealing with these moments, these harsh, ugly moments of recovery, like that's what it takes to be able to just live completely free. Like now it's like I can use Facebook Marketplace to sell things in our garage, or I can look at the news. Or if I get on YouTube, I have to have, I tell her, hey, I'm about to do this,
But there's a discipline required to keep the freedom. People don't associate discipline with freedom.
Right.
Discipline is the quickest way to freedom.
Yeah.
If you have a measure of not only accountability, but your own beliefs and values that you're staying within, something that we've talked
Brian,
about.
I like how you said, you have to find that brotherhood of accountability.
Yeah.
Guys that will call you out and not just go with the flow. If somebody's gonna be like, no, you're in the wrong. You need to change this. And that's the group of men that you need in your life to find that freedom.
Yeah.
Through hearing his story, it sounds like what he went through, pornography was his grooming process.
Yeah. It was
very parallel.
He called it his medicine before, like self-medicating. And what I want to step outside of trafficking and buying sex, and I want to just go right to the heart of humanity. You talked about a sales cycle and a process within just dead scrolling on your phone, right? It's not that different. What are you searching for? When we look at this escalation, we've talked about, we use a lot of words. What comes down to it is, if the product's free, you're the product. If you're on your phone and you're scrolling through, if you're looking at something and you are now conditionally looking at it, am I alone? Am I able to clear this? Is this something that, like, those are things that people go through every day, but they do it in this routine where they don't even think about it. They're just reacting. When I talk with guys that we're working with, we talk about, you're not deciding to watch porn. You're just failing over to it. It's just what you're doing. And because you're not making a decision, you're not weighing anything. You're not even considering your own harm or the harm to others. And as we work on that and they start to understand that, they become informed consumers. Because whether you pay for it or not, you're a consumer, right? So Angela, as you were listening and you were nodding, did anybody come to mind for you? Who was that person for you? Helped you get out and helped you?
Well, I have to give thanks to Christ first. It took a village. It took a village, and it's been an 8-year journey. And I mean, even meeting Rachel, like, there are things that I learned from other survivors, and even listening to Tracy's story, prior, there are things that resonate, and other survivors' stories like end up becoming a survivor's survival guide. And it wasn't just one person. It was a group of people. It was a group of amazing people who cared and who wanted to see me do better. They seen the better me before I seen it in myself.
Takes that sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah. But at a place of healing, I can say I respect men now. And before, I had so much resentment to the buyers. And even now, in a space where I'm actively working as an advocate, helping girls, I'm just being on this panel is going to help me balance better, because I can take that resentment that I have and use that negative energy and put it towards better places, or maybe have less bricks on my chest. And this is healing in itself. Thanks, Joe.
No, yeah. Y'all are You're bringing something well beyond the narrative and the things we talked about earlier in films. You're bringing the heart and humanity into a discussion that so many times gets caught up in what's salacious and what's shock and awe. Y'all just transforming this conversation. This is what's needed. After almost a decade in doing this work, I'm listening to people at this table, and I understand, and I feel like I understood before, but I'm understanding at a different depth of what is needed to really win. We got to stop just existing in this fight. We have to start winning. And the only way to do so is breaking these barriers down, talking about healing, having the crosstalk, understanding what it is to be a man in our culture and what fuels that decision-making process, what we say yes to, how that conditions us to say yes to other things that we never thought we would, and how that drives this exploitation en masse. Y'all are doing that. You're destroying all of that right now in a way that is beautiful. And it sounds different from every one of you. Like there's almost no crossover, but then there's such symmetry. I've heard layers and levels from every one of you. I haven't asked, if y'all are counting, how many times have I asked a question about faith, about God? These are parts of your story. It's not part of your pitch. You can't help but say it. That's why I don't have to ask. And it's beautiful the way that you recognize it in your own life. And I hope that it echoes as a mirror for others. I'm so overwhelmed with honor just to be here with y'all. Daniel, how about you? Who was it for you, man?
Well, thinking back, when I was at my lowest point, like rock bottom, where at some point I just wanted to just take myself out. I just wanted to kill, because I was tired of the cycle. I had met a woman, and we started dating, and she, I guess you can say she was a Christian. I didn't know anything about church or anything. I didn't even know how to spell God if you spell me two letters, so.
What did you tell me in our first interview about what you thought about church?
When I told you, I thought church was just for old white people.
Wow. Sorry, friend.
That brought the house down when you said that.
I'm sorry. That's just I'm being honest. I just thought it was for, I didn't know anything. Meeting. So you're meeting this lady. She opened the door to church, to what a real house should be, like what a family. She had two children, and she just modeled what I didn't have growing up. And she just opened the door, cracked the door open. What really drew me was the music, the praise and worship. That just took me out. Wow. That right there just opened a whole new world. So with that, but I was still battling demons. I was still one foot in, one foot out. So that was really hard for me to break, because the enemy didn't want to let go of me. He didn't see. He's starting to see the difference. And he's like, you still. So still, things didn't end right. So go back to old ways, DWIs, cases. So just falling back to that. Not long after, I met who's my wife now, and she has been like an angel that God has sent to my life.
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
She's totally opposite. Like, she was raised in the church. She never did any drugs, never alcohol, never did anything. Totally opposite. And we just connected. And she has been the one that knows my story, that has just walked with me through this journey. When we first met, me sharing my struggles and, just the addiction. And she knew what I was hurt. I was still broken. And I wanted to just leave that lifestyle completely until, in a year, we got married. The whole year, the first year, just still drinking. Until 1 year, I just cold turkey, just stopped just completely, because I just I'm tired of it. If I continue this, I'm gonna lose a great person, which I'm like, it's not worth. None of this is worth losing what God has sent to my life.
She saved you.
Yeah, pretty much. She was a tool. She was pretty much
God
a
sent
tool.
you.
Yeah, exactly.
Sent her to save you.
Said,
God promises an advocate that will be with you for the
God
rest of
sent
your
her
life.
to save my life.
I'm gonna get a baptismal font in here. It's turned into church, but I'm for it, man. Let's go. Let's
Take
go.
my shoes off.
Well,
Run around.
I hear one little voice in the wind. All right.
That is too
Man, we run out of time, which that feels like we've been up for 10 minutes. Tracy, who's that person for you?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I heard the word village. I mean, it's so interesting because, I mean, my journey has certainly been, I am still 100% learning and purposing to press into the power of God, to press into the power of God so he can do what he needs to do in me. You know, there's so many people, this conversation, there's so many conversations just from what we've talked about today. I mean, I got out of the game in 2003 and I went right into a program that I voluntarily went in there and stayed for 3 years. Wow. It was behavior modification. It was old school. It was called Cinecore. And I came out and hit the ground running. I mean, it was hardcore. I was like Marine coming out of the water with the black under my eyes. I mean, and I went right into full-time ministry and I was very exposed to ministry early. And I was exposed to things like, you know, call that in and speak this. And I still very much believe in speaking those things, that our words are very powerful. But I would sit in church year after year on the front row, dying, preaching the word of God, dying on the inside. Spent years, survivor leader. It sounds real good. Yeah. But, you know, one thing I feel like I'm really passionate about now is what happens when a leader falls. You know, it's like, it's cool. Let's go save this. Let's help this. Let's bring the services. But then when you got someone that's in the game and not really understanding, maybe they're making moves out of their own desperation and pain. I didn't know anything about motives. You know, when I talk about being Cadillac red and how I was, you know, hitting all these licks on Telephone Road and getting high and shooting dope, that followed me into leadership. Then I became the boss's girl. And then I'm the pastor. Does he have water? Let me carry your Bible. I was all wrapped up in, I'm still got to be chosen. I still have to be noticed. But I'm not even hitting licks and in the game anymore.
The fundamental insecurity is at the bottom of all of it.
It was 100% there. And so, I mean, for many, many years, I'm dancing the dance and I'm going to the jail and I'm showing up and I'm doing all these things.
Sounds like you were being puppeted.
I did not know at all that there was a solution to this torture that I was experiencing on the inside. I'm just, well, get up, go to church, do this, do that, and go to work. It was the focus was, honey, it don't matter how many times you fall as long as you get up. Well, what condition are you in when you get up every time you fall? No one ever brought that piece to me. Like, what's going on? Are you still using people? Do you still not even see that you're using people? And so it's been quite a journey. I'm still absolutely learning. And, but you know, when I hit 18 years clean, I picked back up. You could have never told me that would have happened. You could have never told me I would have sat right up in this mug and admitted that, because a lot of judgment, there's a lot of judgment in the mix. When you're a survivor leader, a lot of people don't understand it, that can't happen. And so it put me on a whole new path. It put me on a whole new path of realizing that I can go and show up and sit behind the pastor and carry the Bible and do all these things, but I'm at home trying to figure out how to get poison to take myself out and my dogs and explain to my son why it's not his fault. So been on a very new path for, some time now. And actually, there's an individual in the room. She's a friend of mine. She's in front. She was the only person that said to me, I'm sorry you're in so much pain. Because I was just trying to figure it out. What do you do now? I'm a leader. I've got to fix this. I got to fix that. You know, all these pieces, and then just to let go. And then, I mean, Joe, you're one of the people. I mean, I call Joe often, helping me with things. And so there's been many turns in this journey, many turns of continuing to learn. And I mean, after tonight. There's more pieces. So I know that's a lot, but you know how I roll. I had to get it in.
For you, that's
I had
really
to
not
get
that
it in, man.
much.
Look, I ain't leaving here without.
We got the Tracy curve. That wasn't that much, really. Not so much.
It's interesting with what Tracy just said, like it just play on words maybe, but when like hearing from you guys and the buyers and others that I've worked with, like when men are in pain, they pay for their pleasure. And in paying for pleasure, you're causing us pain, right? And I think that it's so powerful to sit at the same table because it's bigger than this table. It's people in and out of this room. It's a society problem. It's not just here, and we're just one representative sample. And the therapies and the treatments that we've talked about, those are there for survivors and victims all day. They're everywhere. Maybe not as much as we'd like, but they're there. But there's not a lot for you. I don't know about a buyer's intervention. There's very few, like what demand disruption does. And I think if we realize that at the heart of this, because human trafficking and prostitution are the same industry. Regardless of how they're there, it's both selling sex for money. One's being sold and the other's making a deal. It's the same industry.
Same industry.
So if you realize that the fuel for that is the demand, is the buyers, we could be out there in our high heels all day and nobody's going to buy us if there wasn't demand. So if we put more focus on helping you guys, giving you what you need to fight your addiction and not putting the shame on the healing, and like for wives to be a safe place for the husband to say, hey, I've been struggling. Can you take my phone? I'm struggling. For the church to say, hey, you're falling. How can we help you? I think we just need a societal shift so we can see we need to help the demand and support men to stop buying.
The reason why I got involved is that, arrested, figure it out. And man, the fact that I got to meet you, I mean, it was almost a year plus later, but it was a lot of me trying to fumble around, looking at recovery, looking at who to talk to. Thank God for Be Broken Ministries that had like a true north for me. Yeah. But man, this is what our counties need. This is what we have to start telling people is absolutely accountability has to happen, but we've got to find a way that we can help get them through into the bridge method, help them get accountability, put them in a place where they'll find success and or at least paint a picture of what it looks like so that we can, disrupt what's happening. Man,
so I didn't have that question ready. But I want to talk about that just very, very briefly, and then we're going to wrap it up. Right now, most people don't realize this. If you're arrested for solicitation in Texas, it's a state jail felony. Maybe you know that. That's pretty recent, 2.5, 3 years, whatever it was. We testified. We were for it. But what we're missing is we have this hammer of a state jail felony. Like that's life-changing, right? But we're not coupling it with rehabilitation in such a way where a man is not going to buy again, where we're introducing resources. And if we're not going to do that, then the state jail felony, that's going to get pled down. I mean, you just can't. There are over 10 years ago, there was a study that conservatively estimated there were over 2,300 men a day who bought sex in Houston. 10 years ago. You think the problem got better or worse? So if we're there now, and we now have it as a state jail felony, it's amazing. When you ask people in this fight, can you arrest away trafficking? We all know the answer. No. That doesn't mean it's not effective to begin that. But what are we doing with that when we have that person, we have the leverage, they're still in their brokenness, they don't understand. You sought it out. Most don't. They're required to do it. And if they're required to do it, okay, I'll go through with this. I don't care how they show up on our doorstep or how UAHT has their program. Men are required to go to that program. I don't care how they come in. I care how they go out. And if we have a process to do that, then you change a buyer for life. But if you don't, you make a buyer for life. You can go online and in 43 minutes, because I did this, I took an 8-hour, we were watching Princess Bride. We were all together. And I'm like, I wonder how quickly I can do a John school on my phone. That's just because that was apparently the 100th time I've seen Princess Bride. But I was scrolling through and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take the 8-hour course. I did it in 43 minutes. I read every word of that. And it was 74 slides. Most of them were about STDs and some other garbage that had nothing to do with any reconciliation and certainly not recognition of what somebody who's trafficked goes through. but I can print that out and bring it to my court date. That is not restoration. That attaches no resources. So Brian, you nailed it. And I wasn't going to go there, but you brought it up. If every county in Texas had that, we truly would be leading the nation. It's not enough to just pass a law for a felony. I mean, we're there. I'm in Austin. I testify. We see laws go through. It's great work. It is just the beginning. And now we have to have something to couple with that so that men are getting help. And the ones that don't want help, they're not going to go through with it. And they can stay in jail because there is a place for some people. But for most, as we go through that work, we can stop that buyer behavior because the majority of purchases are made by 25% of the men. 25% of the men are buying 75% of the sex. That's a repeat buyer. You stop a repeat buyer, you don't stop one victimization, you stop multiple. That's where we can get to. Okay, soapbox. I am kind of on a soapbox. This is really high. All right, so I got the last question because I got the big cup. I'm over compensation. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's why she gets the front row. Okay, let's do 30 seconds. 30-second answer. Okay, Tracy? 30-second answer, everybody. And then if we do it well, we get the second question. Okay.
Look at right at me.
That was in general. You did that yourself. One of the questions that we ask at the end of our podcast, some of you have been on it, some of you have seen it, is because really we have to talk about the next generation. The work that we're doing now, y'all, we're reactive, right? This is harm that's happened. This is intercession that was a missed opportunity. And now if somebody's buying or in a life of being exploited, that harm has brought them to now. So what would you tell the younger you? Just it doesn't have to be about trafficking. What would you say to the younger you if you had a chance to think about all you've been through and sit down right next to them, look them in the eye? What would you tell them? Angela?
After tonight, I would tell myself to just be patient, be more patient.
Good time. Daniel, what about
I
you?
would say just don't follow the crowd. Don't follow who you're looking up to. And my life would be a whole lot different.
Rachel?
I would say, even though you think you're being strong and you're surviving and trying to be grown and figure it all out, and you're totally in control of everything, not knowing that it's really exploitation, but you're totally in control and it's your choice. Let me tell you, knowing what I know now, freedom feels different. You think you're free there. Freedom feels different when you finally realize that you're in captivity, even if you think that you're in control and you're running the world. Freedom feels different.
Yeah.
That's good.
Brian, how about you, man?
I'd probably say to that kid that was dealing with shame and you're forgiven. You're forgiven. You are, there is a, Christ says paid price for all your ugly stuff, all of it. There's such a freedom being able to know and being able to apply Christ's forgiveness in my life, knowing what it is, seeing it shown to me, but also, experiencing that and seeing that in other men's lives too. So you're forgiven.
Thank you, man. Tracy, what about you?
I'd probably tell her what you have to say is important.
Yeah. As we wrap this up, instead of a last question, I just want to take a second, and I want people that are seeing this, whether you're someone struggling with an unwanted sexual behavior, whether you're somebody who's hurting, there is somebody to call. there's somebody to reach out to. You can reach out to us at defender@demanddisruption.org. You will get a discreet connection. You will have a conversation with somebody that can help facilitate care, resources, even if it's not with us. You have people in your life, just like you heard each of them say you had people in your lives. Sometimes it was many people. You're not alone. I felt like I needed to say that. Tracy, you're doing incredible work with Project Girls. We on our podcast. It was after our podcast. I don't know why I didn't ask it in our episode. If you haven't seen our episode, you have to check it out. It's incredible. I asked her. We're sitting there. Oh, we're eating breakfast. We're talking about a business plan and stuff. And she's like, I said, so how many girls a month do you see? I thought you were going to say 10 to 12. Because you go into the hotels on Telephone Road. The same hotels you were trafficked in, or that you were a renegade in, that you were prostituted in, the same hotel that your mom was in. Just so many layers to that. But you said how many? Every month?
Well, I mean, if we go out there and like just in one day, there would be easy 20 to 30 chicks.
On a month, you're seeing between 60 and 100 women, and you're caring for them. You're there with them. You're helping
and
to
their
care
dogs.
And their dogs.
It's the whole thing, man. I don't even know what I'm doing.
Canines and renegades. Yeah,
what's really going on?
The name of her org is Project Girls, Canine and Renegades. And what we were talking about, we were sitting down with a city council member. If the reason that canines are part of it, if you care for the dog, you reach the girl, because that is one of the only unconditional relationships she has in her life. Even if she's not able to truly care for that dog the way she needs to, that is giving her healing. And you care for every living soul out there on Telephone Road, and people need to understand that. So look up, if you don't know Project Girls, look it up, find a way to financially support it. She's doing this on her own. And if she can take that and teach that to other people, we can replicate this type of care, and we can get this impact 2, 5, 10-fold. Thank you for what you're doing, Tracy.
Thank you.
Brian, you've been working on your own restoration, but every time I talk to you, you think, man, I want to do this. You got this fire about how and what you want to do. Whether it's something you've experienced and you want somebody to hear about, or what you're working on, whatever, what's going on with you right now that you want to be your last words here today?
Man, I think if I can just say that none of this is for my glory. None of this is for my honor. It's all the work that I think Christ has done in me, and so no glory on my part. And I just say that there's hope. That it's a hard road. It's work. It's hard work. Freedom is freely found, man. It's a beautiful thing. Freedom, like you were talking about, Rachel, freedom is so available. And it just takes men that have walked the road and the journey that know that. And so I think I want to sit up here and use my voice to say that there's hope, and to get plugged in. If you don't know where to go, reach out to Demand, get me involved, let me help. I'm excited about the leadership that I'm doing. There's a program called Region that I've been plugged into. Got to go to the leadership conference this past week, and we're doing I'm getting to lead in that environment now, and helping other men grow, and men and women actually that find recovery from all kinds of this spiritual malady of our heart, and so just plugging into those men and getting to work with you, getting to work with Fong on the curriculum, and getting to,
Disruption University, there's a plug.
There's a plug right here. But also, just seeing what God's going to do, in my wife and I's lives, we've really seen that there's an opportunity. We've got a story to tell.
Oh, I think there's so much to,
and there's a lot of people that we need to help.
Yeah.
And just as, really good feedback I was told is grow where you're planted. Pour into the people where you're at. And that's what we're doing, man.
Yeah.
Just watching my wife bring along people to help, to minister with us and to show the story of God's grace in our lives. That's what we're doing right now.
That's awesome. Thank you. Rachel, I'm afraid to ask, because every time I talk to you, you're in a different city, or you're leading a different conference, or you're on a different witness stand, or you're in a different national talk show. But I just admire you. I met you at an intervention on the street with Elijah Rising. I met you at an intervention, but it wasn't an intervention. It was people getting arrested, but you were there for the women. We were there for the men. I met you after you were arrested, after all of this. So apparently arrest is how I meet cool people. I don't know. Maybe I should consider some things in my life, reconsider some things. But Rachel, from the moment my wife and I met you on that intervention, we were like, well, that one's different. So tell me what you get up to. What do you want your last words here to be?
Yeah, and I mean, even in that interaction, it was, you were a man that was out there, and we were walking on the track in Bissonnette and Houston, and, we go out there and we would love on the girls and talk to the pimps and just be present with people who are in the life. And I told him, like, we need more men. We need more of you. These pimps, they sometimes grew up with their grandma. They didn't have anybody raise them. They need a male figure that's strong and solid. We need more men in the fight to defend women. We need men to strengthen their sons, to respect women. And so, reform buyers, people, these are two out of many that we all know. It's so prevalent and it's so protected and hidden. People do come home and clear their search histories on their phones. These aren't conversations you have at the dinner table, and we don't want to admit that it happens in our circles, but it does. When I was being exploited, the clients were married men. They would tell me about their wives and their kids at school and off to college and how sad it was. And I was like, oh, I'm, helping the family stay together but they were married. They were in church. They were politicians. Nobody would ever know. And it was very secret. So this exists. And these men among us are struggling with this. So be a safe place. Have mercy and grace. Even if you find it in your home, be a safe place for that man in your life to turn around and be an advocate against it, to be a change agent, and to be able to speak in churches and to get people to wake up to the problem and realize that what they're doing isn't just scrolling in a cycle, but it's hurting people. And that they need help too. So be a safe space and get the word out there. And everybody has their sphere of influence, and everybody can do something in the fight. So now that you know, what are you going to do about it? Ask yourself that and take charge of yourself and what you're going to do next.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Like I said before, I just can't do it enough service here, but you just say yes. And every time you do, I know before you say yes, you're like, oh man, I don't want to do this. I'm not doing this. I don't want to do this. I'll think about it. Yes, Joe, I'll do it. That's pretty much, I imagine, your internal dialogue. Am I far off?
That's spot on.
Knew it. But you say yes. What you've been saying yes to lately. What do you want your last words to? I sound like I'm going to kill all y'all. I'm not. These are not your last words. I got to come up with a better catchphrase. What do you want people to remember from tonight, I guess, without your last words?
Even if it's just one person, if it's not here, somebody listening later on, if it changes one person, one heart gets transformed, then it's definitely all worth it. If I could just plant that seed, even if it don't change right away, but if it can go back and listen, and if they start finding some change, transformation in their heart, that's what I'm doing. That's the last words I have for somebody.
Yeah. You're not only saying it, you're living it. You're exemplifying that, and you lead by example. Yeah, I admire that. Angela, she says I'm like a cool dad. You already said your age earlier. I'm 12 years older than you. What do you want to share at the end?
If I could talk to an active sex buyer, I would say that a prostituted individual is not going to make you feel like a man.
Say it again.
A prostituted individual is not going to satisfy your needs or make you feel like a man. They're not going to give you what you're not getting at home.
The difference between chasing a feeling and chasing fulfillment.
Find your identity through Christ.
Here's that word, identity. You know, I am fully aware we're well over what time we told people we were going to talk today. I'm also fully aware that back door has not opened and nobody has left. That's because of y'all. It's because of the power in this room. It's because of what you've brought. You said identity. We have a saying with Demand Disruption, your identity plus your purpose will equal your legacy. Every one of you have talked about 2 identities, maybe 3 in your life. And you had to do the work to get to this identity. And you've done that. And you've applied a purpose to it that is serving others. I mean, this is a manual in how to reform yourself if somebody watches this. And it's because of y'all. And that's your legacy. Your legacy is reaching everybody here, everybody who sees this. And if we can be legacy minded and commit to that as a community, you can overcome all the ugliness. Like you guys have just eliminated what you really were justified in feeling. The person that told me this will not work, this is impossible, they didn't know y'all. They didn't know who you were. And we are grateful that you let us know you a little bit more today on our season finale of the Demand Disruption podcast. And I just want to say on behalf of our entire team, we admire you, we're grateful for you, and we're ready to just keep doing work with you. Thank you for everything tonight. Thank you very much.